Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for another one of our monthly chats. This time we're going to be going over the Orcas SwimRun course for Odyssey SwimRun. And before we get started, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Arc SwimRun, Precision Hydration, Athletic Brewing Company, and Science and Sport, along with the help of the Low Tide Boys, who are going to be doing a little more with us this year. So without further ado, I'd actually like to pass this off to Lars Knonger and Brent Mulsbury, wherever he is. Brent, are you on? And then we've got John, who's won it.
We think that Brent's going to be joining us a little bit later because he has a newborn baby in the house. And so we're giving him a bit of time leeway these next few weeks, but for sure we'll wrangle him in by the time that race day comes along. We'll keep him on a tight leash so he can't wander too far. But yeah, thanks for joining, guys. I'm Lars Knonger. I'm one of the owners and producers of the Odyssey race series. And I actually have had the good fortune of doing the Orcas course 2 times, both times that we've had it. And joining me is John Stevens, and I'll let him introduce himself as well.
Hey, I'm John Stevens. So like Lars, I've actually done the course as well. Well, obviously have done the course as well and helped set it up a few times. I only got to do it the first year and let Lars take it and run the second year. But yeah, happy to be here and answer any questions and go over whatever we can with the course.
And if you're wondering how on earth the race directors were able to do the race course, well, that's because Brent, who is not yet checked onto the call, is a phenomenal race director. He knows the route, the Orcas Island area, the San Juan Islands. He knows it like the back of his hand. And John, I guess, wasn't on as a race director that first year, so he had carte blanche. But Brent convinced us that everyone would be in good standing by the end, and that we were given a hall pass. But I don't think John and I are planning to race it this year, unless our friend from Canada, Simon Whitfield, comes back and taps one of us. But we'll both be planning on having the race director hat on this year. So yeah, to get started, guys, thanks for joining us. If many of you, your names are familiar, so we know that you have a few swim runs under your belt. I see Philip Sankoff. He's one of the SwimRun monks joining us from San Diego. Hugh Murray and his daughter have done quite a few of our swim runs. So it's just fantastic to see folks who now are going on races 3, 4, 5, in Philip's case, probably a dozen plus. So, that shows that SwimRun's growing in the US, and it also shows that, people are interested in adding more SwimRun races to their calendar, which is great to see. But I think the agenda tonight, and it may all get, combobulated around when Brent shows up, but we'd really just like to, give you an intimate look of what the Orcas Island course is, what's unique about it, and, really answer your questions. I think that's going to be the main thing. We can, I guess, start by talking generally, spend a minute or two talking generally about SwimRun. With the Orcas Island, we do have each of the different formats that we have in our Odyssey race series. We have both a solo category, which is just individual, and then we have teams, which is really how the sport was founded, and really how we would recommend everyone try, at least very quickly in their SwimRun career, which is joining up with a teammate. And then we have both a short course race in each of those categories, and we have a long course in each of those categories. I think more than any other race that we have, the short course is a horrible name on Orcas Island's course, because this short course is very, very difficult. It's got a lot of elevation gain. There's some good swims, some sizable swims, but really the name of the game on Orcas Island is elevation. You're going to be climbing a lot. You're going to be descending a lot. And so it's a course that you really have to bring your running legs to. John, is there anything I forgot about just SwimRun in general, and just, before we kind of start talking about Orcas specifically?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I think probably better just to get into that course.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, Orcas it's a beautiful island. It's a stunning, stunning backdrop for a swim run. It's really perfect venue. And, with swim run, one of the most basic fundamental differentiators between, say, swim run and triathlon is the fact that you're really taking care of both your teammate and the others out on the course, and then also, the beautiful nature that we're in. It's like we said, it's a stunning scenery. It's very pristine. You won't see any litter on the grounds. And so, certainly the expectation is that we, don't contribute any of that either. So it's a pack in, pack out type race situation. It's everything that you start the race with, you finish it with. And, that's how swim run is in general, but that's how, certainly how Orcas is. You're very secluded in some portions of the course. And so, taking care of one another, sometimes in a running race or a triathlon, you might see someone, say, have a bike crash or fall on the side of the road. And, but what you see a lot of is just people blow by that person, oh, I hope they're okay. But that's as far as you go. In swim run, we really stop. We stop and we take care of one another out there. And, I would say Orcas is a course where that's really paramount, because there's some portions of the course where the race organizers, our staff's not going to be able to get to you if you find yourself in trouble. And so, not medically, but, just taking care of one another, asking someone who looks like they're in a difficult patch, are you okay? Do you need a gel that I might have for you? Just talk to one another, even if they're a fellow competitor, because in this situation, they're really a fellow athlete taking on the course.
Hey, Lars, can I interject for 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just something about Orcas before Lars jumps into the map, because we get this question from time to time. So currently we have 90 long course two-person, or we have 90 people registered for long course two-person teams. There's about 55, 60 teams in there. And we have about 35 to 40 short course teams, 45 solo short course, and only 6 solo long course. Now, we started long course solo as a choice not too long ago. So that's why that one's probably low, but we have really good numbers this year for Orcas, considering where it was last year, the year before. At this time, we get a lot just before. So we're really excited about how many that's bringing. But I wanted to remind people, there are quite a few teams that have registered, the captains registered, paid, established the team, but there's only one person on the team. So if you're one of those and you know who your partner is going to be, your teammate, have them sign up. You can't sign them up, but sooner rather than later is better, because like today, for instance, we had to place orders for stuff for Mackinac Island and Casco Bay, and there's still a number of teams with only one person on there. So if you can get the other teammate registered, that's great. If you need to make any changes, just know that you can go into your Run Sign Up account and you can click on the manage registration under your account. You can change things like the giveaways, your address, your email, add-ons, teammates, stuff like that, whatever you need to do in there. So we've really tried to turn this into a teaching exercise with you guys so that it's really manageable on your end, reducing our work, but also making it more convenient for you to do whatever you need to do. So I just wanted to interject that, and that goes for all races.
Yeah, and Aaron has really streamlined the whole process for us. So, if it was up to John and I, you'd still be getting, written pieces of paper with, for you to make your entry on. So, and we'd have them all stashed in one manila envelope. So Aaron's really streamlined the whole process. And, versus just a stopwatch timer like John and I would probably have, Aaron has that whole process really taken care of nicely.
And one other thing real quick, if I could, Lars, and I want to say this on each of the course chats. This year's different in the way that everybody is going to get their own bib with their own unique number and their own timing chip. So in our system, those that are on teams, we have you as a team. Like if it's a team of 2 for long course, and we give the number 1 to someone and the number 2, for example, to the other person, we have number 1 and number 2 linked as one team. Whoever crosses first and you guys should be really close to each other, but whoever crosses first, that is your official finishing time for the team. But for purposes of safety and tracking and just us being able to identify people on the course for whatever reason, we want everyone to have their own number, their own timing chip and everything. So that is unique. And what that's also allowing us to do is assign the sizes better. We will only have small for female and large for male, but that should span all the sizes that we've gotten in. It should fit everyone decently. So that's kind of where we're headed this year.
Okay, so why don't we jump right into the course? I think that'll be a good place to start, and there will certainly be questions that come up along the way. So this is year 3 of this event. Year 1 and year 2 both started and finished at what was called Camp Moran. Camp Moran was really it was a cozy camp area that had kind of primitive camping setup. It had a really nice central area where you could cook food, and we were all able to get together. But we're taking it up a notch this year. And for those who have done the course before, you're familiar with the Rosario Resort. Rosario is really one of the most picturesque areas on the entire island, though. And so we've been trying for a few years to start the race there, but it never worked due to weddings that were taking place there. It's a really popular spot for weddings. And so this was really the first year that we were able to secure that for our start finish venue. There are certainly other places to stay on the island. You know, if you want to do tent or tent camping, you can reserve that. There are Airbnbs there, but Rosario Resort's a really fantastic place to stay. And so this map is still old, but where the number 3 is on the map, so it says Cascade Bay, where that first aid marker is. You can see it says Rosario Resort.
Okay.
That's the start finish area down there. And this map will be updated, but for the most part, it's only the start finish is different than in years past. So the start finish is at Rosario, and I mean, immediately you start with uphill climbing. It's you're going to hear that this is just going to be a broken record, but I mean, if there is one word of advice I have to prepare for this course, it's if you don't have trails that, you know, with undulation, with sustained climbing that you can access. You know, John and I in the past have just hit up a Stairmaster and just blasted our quads because that's really what you're going to be feeling a lot is, you know, just your quads are going to feel destroyed. But I mean, John, that pitch right out of the gate, you're going upwards of 15 to 20%, I want to say, on that road.
Yeah, I mean, that to get from the Rosario down on the bay there up to Cascade Lake, which is where I think the first swim will be or second swim will be this year. But I mean, that's a big climb right up to that, and it's steep right off the bat. I mean, your hands on knees getting up there.
Yep, absolutely. And the trail that leads from the Rosario area up to Cascade Lake, where that swim will be, is it's a narrow trail. It is the first actual trail on single track that we start with, and it is, I mean, it's going to be hands on your knees plowing yourself forward. It's you know, certainly so early in the race, it doesn't really behoove you to burn matches, and so you know, it's going to be one of those power hike type situations. But you hit that first swim, and it's kind of a little lagoon that's in a campground area. Aaron, here it says swim 3 is where we're pointing. So that first swim really just gets you onto the, it's in a little lagoon area. It's going to be a very quick swim. It'll get you onto a run section that takes you into one of the kind of iconic areas of our course. And that is the cliff jump that you see, a really cool kind of like a Bodhi type tree, I think they're called, that you that's in the background as you jump off this cliff into the water. There is an option to, with all of our cliff jumps that we have on our courses, there's always an option to walk down to the water level. We've actually heard that in years past that that's more dangerous than actually just jumping. But we certainly want that up to, to your discretion to do.
I fell in the water with my cameras walking down instead of staying up high where people were jumping. So
yeah, it's really steep. It's really, really slippery to get down to the water level. Obviously if you come into this with some kind of back issue or, something that you're really worried about, figure out a way to get down those rocks. But, typically if you just go in with kind of a life-saving, pencil type dive approach, you'll be fantastic. And it's really not that high of a jump. So, John, what, 10, 15 feet, something like that?
I'd say about 10 feet.
Yeah. The only hard, fast rule we have there is just, one team at a time, and we don't allow you to tether in those jump situations. We just don't want to get into the type of situation where one teammate jumps and the other freaks and is still standing at the top of the cliff. So make sure you unhitch your tether there, jump in, and then you got a nice 500 plus yard swim to another campground. This whole area is it's so beautiful, and it's all campgrounds. So, there's only a few road crossings throughout the entire course, but you're going to come out across Cascade Lake, and there's going to be a picnic bench there that's going to be, which will be where your first aid station for the day is. And at those aid stations, we'll have precision hydration, which is our electrolyte replacement. And we'll be using the 1000 strength. And really what precision hydration does, it's an electrolyte replacement. So it's not a calorie replenisher. So it's a very light taste. But we want to alleviate cramping if at all possible. And especially running around in your wetsuit, you're going to be sweating and dehydrating yourself a lot quicker than if you weren't wearing a wetsuit. So that's what we'll have as a drink. And then the gels that we have on course are the Science and Sport gels. And these are the isotonic kind. And so really you don't even need water to chase those. They're very liquidy. But we will have water as well. Then a bit later on in the course, we'll actually get into some kind of more whole food. Aaron did hold up one of the bars. So we do have Science and Sport. There'll be some bars as well. The aid stations are really loosey-goosey. It's kind of take what you need. Really the way that you should plan is just plan to take what you need to get to the next aid station. And just remember the fact that you will have people behind you who, also need the same thing. Unlike a triathlon, we don't have aid stations where there's volunteers who are you don't yell ahead and, they have a cherry flavored gel waiting for you. You go up to the aid station, you find what it is that you might want, you pick it up yourself. I don't have a collapsible cup with me. We are going to provide collapsible cups to each of our racers, but I have a flask, and for the longer races, a flask is really nice because it'll actually hold water while you're on some of the longer runs. But the collapsible cup is something that you can use at the aid station. Fill whatever you want from the cooler, and then you just tuck it right back into your wetsuit. It collapses down each time.
Lars, did you want to talk about the rest tubes for a second?
For the people who are racing the solo category, we do have a few rules that protect you and protect us, knowing that you're okay. One of the things that, with a teammate, you are a second set of eyes on your teammate. So it's a built-in safety mechanism, having a buddy out on course. But in the solo and individual race, you don't have that buddy. So what we do have that you're going to be wearing is a rest tube. And so Aaron's holding up the rest tube in his hand. We've really slimmed these down over the years, but you just wear this on around your waist. And if shit hits the fan, You know, if you feel like you're got a cramp that's not going to go away and you need a kayak to zoom over to you, or God forbid something worse, you know, happens, a car, you know, something else where you need attention very, very quickly. It's a CO2 cartridge that inflates that rest tube, and that a big yellow buoy will pop out. So you'll pull that big yellow buoy will pop out, and that's what you'll use to wave to get the attention of our kayaks and water safety out on course.
And there's a whistle too.
And a whistle. So, but otherwise, unlike years in the past where we've had you carry the new wave buoys, which then you'd have to run like you're holding a football, with those rest tubes, you just keep it at your waist, and so it's really slimmed down the profile of the for the individual athletes. So when you're actually out on the course, and Aaron, bring the map back up. But when you're out on the course, the course markings that we have, these are trail markings. So as you're running along on the course, this is how you'll know if you're on the right path. What we do is we have some flagging tape that has our Odyssey logo on it, and we have a clothespin, and we just attach those onto a tree. So this is just going to be hanging every couple hundred yards, or, you know, anytime there's any deviation in the course, we put those guiding marks for you. If there's a major intersection that's going to require a left, a right, or if the trail splits off in 3 ways and we need you going a specific route, we will actually have like a coroplast sign with an arrow pointing you in the right direction that we want you to go. The Low Tide Boys did a great podcast the other week on what's called heads up racing. But the whole premise behind that is that, you know, you are your eyes out on the course. So you just need to keep your eyes peeled for the course markings that we set up for you. And, you know, if you haven't seen some of these flags for, you know, 5-10 minutes or a couple hundred yards, it's very, very likely that you've gone the wrong way, and you should retrace your steps and find those again.
And just to add for a second, last year we were gonna, before COVID, do orange and yellow, and those flags pertain to short or long course, and they match the color of the bib and the swim cap. This year we're changing the colors that we give you guys, but Lars may still come in the week of, or even the day before during the briefing or whatever, and say, hey, if you see yellow, it's one way. If you see orange, it's the short, or whatever. But the colors this year officially, short course is this blue, and your swim cap and your bib will be this color if you're short course, and long course is this red. And then, like I said, those yellow and orange flags may represent short or long. We'll let you know, or it may just be one color the whole time, or it may not matter what color it is. I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to Lars and John.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, with our course markings, we've actually preserved the course markings from previous races really well. So the course markings are probably going to be the same 2 colors, yellow and orange. But yeah, we will certainly let you know. There's going to be 2 forms of pre-race meetings this year. In the past, we've always had a mandatory in-person meeting. You know, with this whole past year, we've gotten pretty proficient at doing it online. And so we will have a similar format to what we're doing right now, where we will record it in advance. There are options that you can mail your whole packet to you in advance as well. So we'd still certainly recommend you come in person. You know, it's where all last minute stuff is discussed, and it's the final iteration of what the race is going to be. So, you know, that's certainly the recommendation. We have that the afternoon before the race, which would be a Saturday, late afternoon, early evening in this case. Okay, let's keep going on the race course here. So
where'd you leave off?
We've finished the Cascade swim, swim 4 as it's labeled here. So please just ignore this. These swim numbers are going to be off a little bit. The run numbers are going to be off a little bit because we do have that new start finish area. But we are where it says swim 4 on the course going into run 5. So this is all the same for short course and long course. This is a really also a hilly run. let's just assume that all runs are hilly. So this is a hilly run that's going to take us pretty much from the Cascade. It's going to be the link between the Cascade section of the course and the Mountain Lake section of the course. You will cross a road at the beginning, and then you'll cross a road where it says number 7, where the 7 marker is, that then takes you onto the Mountain Lake trail system. You'll get onto the Mountain Lake trail system, and where it says swim number 5, that's might be the longest swim of the day. I think that's the longest swim of the day. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be swimming to a tiny little island. Yep, which is right there. And John, do you remember? We don't get out on that island?
We did, yeah, we did. It's a quick hop up, and you kind of run to the middle of it, and then hang a left off of it, I believe.
Okay, and then when you hang the left off of that, I think the aid station's pretty easy to see.
Yeah, and
I see. That's not the aid station yet, right?
You got to run back down the road to the aid station.
That's right. Okay,
that's the start of the climb to up Constitution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, okay. So run 6, you hit that little island, you backtrack a little bit on a fire road, and then where that first aid marker is, there's an aid station right there. Highly recommended you take on. If I would recommend getting one of these type of flasks, because this climb, I want to say, John, we're the fastest times up Mount Constitution, 30 minutes.
Yeah, thereabouts.
So that's at fastest a very high 29 or very high 20 or low 30-minute climb, and at slowest double it. Let's just loosely say double it. So plan ahead. So you'll want some gels going into that. You'll definitely want some water going into that. Strategically, that might be a place where you take an extra minute, depending on how cold it is, if it's raining or what have you, and just cab down. So that's where you take your wetsuit top down, just to allow yourself to breathe a little bit more. I think that's a strategy probably that both John and I have used in previous years, and probably Phil would say the same thing. It's just straight uphill. There's no relief.
Yeah, there's a lot more walking on that section than there is running, at least up to where it says 11 there, that next aid station anyway.
Yeah, so don't feel at all like, oh my gosh, my race is over if you're power hiking or walking, because odds are the majority of other folks are too. The upside to all of this is that, well, you guys are probably suffer beasts, and so you like, the bigger the challenge, the more suffering, the better. But second of all, you're getting some beautiful pictures and some epic scenery. And so, that's the upside to that. Then at the top of Mount Constitution, there's it's like an observation tower. And we have another picnic table where there's an aid station right at the top of that observation tower. And so
Lars, is that just after 11 on the map, or is that up towards between 11 and 12 up here?
Yeah, John, do you want to take that?
Yeah, it's right where 11 is.
Next.
It's right where 11 is, where this medical.
Right where 11 is.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you'll come out at where the aid station sign is. That's where that tower is, and then you kind of run. You can kind of see where the road comes up to the top here. Yeah. So it's a short little run down to the top of that road, and that's when you drop back down into the trail, and then that goes to the switchbacks. So that's going to be the start of the descent down to Twin Lakes off of that. But again, you still have another mile and a half down to Twin Lakes. That's obviously going to go by a lot faster than this mile up to the top of Constitution. But this is where you've got a bunch of switchbacks, and as much as you were cursing the up going to the top of Constitution, coming down this backside, you're going to feel like someone's taking baseball bats to your quads, because it's just pretty steep down coming off that backside there.
And also switchbacks. Yeah. So it's going to be, and John has sprained his ankle very severely on that spot as well. John was useless in course setup one year because he sprained his ankle on the downhill and had to hobble his way back up.
Yeah, right about where that 12 was. Made it a mile into the whole race setup for the whole weekend, and I was out.
Yeah. So those little twin lakes, you can see across them. Those are certainly situations where we don't have them set up right here, but we do use these massive 10-foot tall teardrop flags. They're hot pink to use as our exit points. So you'll always want to identify where those are, because that's where you're going to be getting out of the water. Sometimes I want to say, like in the case of, say, Mountain Lake, you may not be able to see it before you go in, but you will eventually pick that up. And, you know, it might be a case too where we have talked about getting strobe lights as well, just for better visual. But those twin lakes, you can see straight across those lakes. And so just pick up where those flags are, hop in. Last year, 2 years ago when we last did this race, I want to say that people said those were easily the coldest lakes on the course. And so you can look for those to be 5 degrees or so, probably cooler than the other lakes. So even though they're short, you know, make sure that your wetsuit's zipped up and that you're ready to go there. Yeah, John, do you want to talk about after swim 8 then?
Sure. Yeah. So we this is kind of, as Lars said, talking about being in some remote parts of the course. Coming off the backside of Constitution, Mount Constitution, you go down through Twin Lakes, and then you have another long run up Mount Pickett. And it's not quite as steep as Mount Constitution, as in you don't feel like you're going straight up, but it's a long gradual climb up to where that it's the Mount Pickett tops out right where that aid station is there between mile 14 and 15 on this map. But that is the most remote part of the course here back in this area. And again, now at this point, you've been racing for a while. Twin Lakes are cold. This is where you might get a little chilly coming through the backside if it's a cold, rainy day. And this aid station right here is another one of those key aid stations. As you kind of come to the top of Pickett and drop back down, you still have a good long decent run with obviously still some ups, still some downs, because it's this and that takes you kind of loops back around to Mountain Lake. And so again, you're going to want to make sure that you have got plenty of nutrition here to get past or get through these next 2 miles that'll take you up to the swim across Mountain Lake here. And Aaron, if you zoom in on Mountain Lake a little bit, you can kind of see it's the one that goes straight across.
Brent's on, by the way.
Oh, Brent.
What's there.
Up, B?
Sorry, got a little delayed.
All right.
Newborns will do that.
Excuses.
I know. How's it going?
Good, Brent. We've already cursed your name 100 times for setting this course up for everyone. So, yeah, and John, where John is on the course between on Mount Pickett, you know, and we'll bring this up. We think it's really funny, but we will make sure that you know Brent's face and his name, and that you should curse his name because he came up with this course. Yeah, that section in the back there, 14, 15, 16, where there's really nothing out there. That's easily the most isolated portion on the course. So yeah, Brent, to catch you up, John's just about to go through the back half of the course swims on Mountain Lake.
Okay, so we're just starting there, coming through the aid station, or about to the aid station.
So we just came off of Pickett. We've made it back to Mountain Lake, and what is on this map as swim 9 back to that other back to the aid station. So this is one of those aid stations that, you know, obviously we'll hit twice. And then Brent, maybe you want to walk us around now up around Mountain Lake.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for covering for me, John.
Yeah, you got it. Don't forget about the rope swing.
We will definitely cover the rope swing. Yeah, so swim 9 basically traverses straight across the lake. It's a kind of little beach that you hop in at right there at the start of swim 9, and you can't quite see where you're gonna pop out when you first start that swim. You kind of go around a little point to the left, and then you'll shoot straight across, hop out at the aid station at Mountain Lake Landing, right at that big aid station sign. Good place to fuel up and warm up, because that's going to be really like your last aid station before the finish. From there, you head north on the trail on Mountain Lake. And even though it shows a couple little dash lines, like there's some swims there, the run going from mile 18 up to swim 10 is pretty flat. You start out actually on a little bit of paved road, and then you hop on some single track, but it's nice, flat, easy single track. And then swim 10 is not super long, but there is, as John mentioned, a rope swing right there at the start of swim 10. Extra points if you take the rope swing, certainly not necessary. It may delay you a little bit, but it's pretty fun. So you'll shoot across that kind of northern aspect of Mountain Lake. You'll hit the far shoreline over there, and you hop right back on the trail. There's a little up and down over there, not much, pretty straightforward trail. And then swim 11 cuts in kind of a steep, rocky little bank, and that shoots straight across to a small little island there. Run 12 is pretty short. It's on this island in the middle of the lake. Kind of a pretty little, it's a really pretty little island. And then swim 12, again, another like 320 meters, gets you back to the far shoreline, that eastern shoreline of Mountain Lake. And so from there, just before the mile 20, there's actually a kind of mean little hill. It's not that long, but you think it should be flat, and it's not. So you're going to hit that trail on the eastern shore of Mountain Lake, and it actually goes up a couple switchbacks, and then you head down. And then this is the one section where you kind of double back on yourself a little bit, and you may see some racers going in the opposite direction as you're heading down there between miles 20 and 21.
Interrupt. So last 10 minutes we've talked about, we've kind of followed the long course. Can you just tell them where the where the short course is interjected again into this?
Yeah, sure thing. So the short course, most of them will probably be through, but basically the swim that you do across Mountain Lake when you come down from Pickett starts at the same place that the Mountain Lake swim for the short course finishes.
So mile 7 for the short course is where on the long course?
Mile 7 for the short course is about mile 17 and a half for the long course.
Yep, going up.
So it's right where swim 9 starts. That's where the short course swim on Mountain Lake comes out.
And it's also mile like 20 and a half or so coming back, right?
And about mile 20 and a half, yeah. And then once you kind of, the two courses come together there, they stay together for the rest of the race.
Which is blue on the short course map. And if you want to compare,
blue on the short course map,
it's purple, mostly purple, most of it on the long course.
Yep. Yeah, so from the end of Mountain Lake, it's pretty much all downhill, down along Cascade Creek. And then at like the mile 22 mark there is where you actually cross over just below Cascade Falls. It's a super pretty location. You'll see it on a bunch of our routes and stuff, or the photos. And then what's going to be different this year is as runners come down again, you're on that purple course going between 22 and 23. Right where that number 1 is, as you're coming up, you're actually going to take a right-hand turn there, and you're going to hit the water, and you're going to swim about from the number 1 back over to kind of reverse the direction of that purple swim there. Because
we already talked about how we're starting and finishing at Rosario this year, so you know they do know that. But yeah, just like Brent said, just reverse that dotted purple line with the swim on the way back.
So it would follow the yellow, the way the yellow is right here?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Hey, Brent, as we're coming down into Rosario, one thing that we didn't talk about, can you remind me as well where we decided to have that cold bay swim at the beginning?
It's going to be at the start of the race.
Okay, so you might want to go through the start of the race then, after you finish the race.
And Brent, I apologize. I seem to remember like last year, did we go over this and make changes? Or not?
I think I sent you an updated map, but I can send you the updated map again if need be.
Okay, I thought or maybe it was Lars and I went through it, but just for everyone listening, we'll have this within 2 weeks updated, and I'll try and do it in a way where it also has short and long course on one map instead of two, and we'll fix it all for you guys.
Yeah,
I feel like we do have this map in existence.
Yeah, I'll look for it. I thought it was already up. I didn't know we were on this old version, but that's fine.
So basically the way the race will finish is you do that swim across Cascade Lake, the reverse of the purple, and then you're going to stay on the southern shore of Rosario Lagoon.
Okay.
And it's a flat trail, but it's actually really technical. Lots of roots, lots of logs, that kind of stuff. So that little trail right there that Aaron's tracing is very technical. And then once you get to the end of Rosario Lagoon, it's a very steep hill that drops you back down to the finish line. And so the finish line will be right where that number 3 is. And so it's a really descent coming into Rosario. So just take it easy on those tired legs, because
So Brent, the start,
they've done a lot of up and down by that point. Go ahead, Aaron.
The start, Lars was saying it's going to be over here at Rosario, and then they'll do this base swim right away.
Yes.
Hey, Brent, will they do that base swim like within the first couple of minutes of the race, or will they do that base swim after the hill section through the neighborhood?
It's going to be very early, within the first few minutes of the race.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
So guys, I would definitely recommend, if not a warm-up jog, which you'd probably want to do anyways to get the, coffee working through your system or whatever. But, at least do some jumping jacks or something to get your, heart rate up a little bit. That swim's 10 degrees colder than anything else on the course.
At least, yeah.
And it's in the high 40s, maybe low 50s, but high 40s is what I would plan for. Super short. It's going to clear your head. I mean, it's a beautiful swim, but it will take your breath away if you're not ready for it.
And the good news is you're going to warm up quick once you get out of the water. It's a big uphill right after getting out of the water.
Well, you don't have any choice, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Air's going to be warmer anyway.
Yeah, hopefully.
We haven't had snow yet. Why not?
No, yeah.
So that really takes us through the course. I think we should probably take some questions from folks, because I'm sure there's lots of them. And that probably will get to a bunch of things that we haven't touched upon yet.
Water temps. I know you talked about what the bay will be, the high 40s, low 50s, but what are the rest of the lakes, Lars? That was one of the questions.
I'll toss that to Brent because he's spent much more time out there.
Yeah, that time of year, it fluctuates a little bit, but Cascade Lake will probably be low 60s. Mountain Lake will be low 60s. The Twin Lakes can sometimes be a little bit colder, so they could be like upper 50s in the Twin Lakes. But usually like upper 50s, low 60s for that time of year.
What shoes do you recommend?
Now, one thing to mention about SwimRun is in a triathlon, those temperatures would seem very cold. And in a SwimRun, for whatever reason, it always seems 5 to 10 degrees warmer than what those temperatures are, like perception wise. A large part of that's because you really overheat on the running sections. And so that water feels just refreshing. And the only difference, or the only caveat to that, would be Mountain Lake and maybe Cascade Lake on the back half when you're returning, because your body is definitely started to break down a bit and might be more susceptible to getting cold. It might be cold already. But otherwise, temperature wise, don't think of it in terms, if you're coming from a triathlon background, of how cold that is in triathlon terms. That's a very typical temperature in SwimRun courses.
Lars, what do you recommend for, we get this all the time for shoes. It's a mostly trail course, but what kind of trail shoes, and talk a little bit maybe about swimming in them and maybe even like paddles and buoys and things like that.
Yeah. So these are my exact shoes that I wear. They're called the Hoka Ona Ona Jaws. They've got lugs on the bottom that help with gripping on the trails, slippery rocks, etc. These are very lightweight. If you have any kind of foot issue, that might not be the best option. If you need to get something that's a little bit sturdier, has more stability, or, depending on what your foot does. The general recommendation, though, is to get a lightweight trail shoe if you can. And that's primarily because they drain water really, really well. And that's the biggest, that and having some kind of, lug on the bottom that can grip onto rock if it's wet. Those are the two biggest characteristics, something that drains well, and then something that is very grippy. Everyone has their own favorite kind of shoe, though. So it's a fool's errand to say, any one brand is the go-to. You'll see every single kind of shoe out there.
And John, you use paddles and pull buoy. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. With that much swimming and dragging your shoes behind you. Oh, good. Lars has got the buoy. A lot of the SwimRun wetsuits these days are pretty minimalistic from the waist down, obviously, because there's so much running in SwimRun. You want as little resistance there as possible. So the flip side to that is thinner on the bottom is going to basically be less buoyancy, plus the drag of the shoes. So that's kind of, SwimRun has gone the direction of these kind of Mondo or big pull buoys like Lars has right there, and that is essentially going to create a lot of lift in the hips and the lower body, and kind of get your butt up and your feet up on top of the water to help with swimming. The other side of that too are the hand paddles, and it's one of those basically, you want to practice the hand paddles ahead of time because they do put a bit of stress on your shoulders, especially if a race, any one of the SwimRun races, when you're doing 3+ miles of swimming, that's going to add up over time. And obviously it's not all at once, but it's going to be there. So I would recommend the paddles because it's going to make a difference throughout the day, but also making sure that you are prepared to use them for that amount of time in that duration. And then basically the trick to both of those is now you've got to run with them. And you could even see it on Lars's, there's the wetsuit that Lars is holding up. Stretchy legs on the bottom to help with running on that arc suit, most of those arc suits. But with the pull buoy, oh, that's one of the rentals. So yeah, we do have rentals available through ARC. That's one of the rental wetsuits. I believe that the Corp has a pocket in the back as well, which is actually helpful for storing some nutrition and things like that. Not a lot, but maybe enough just to kind of have an emergency backup on you.
So on Orcas course, I would highly suggest having some kind of undershirt. Like ARC does make an undershirt called a kangaroo pouch, and that just has literally two pouches that you wear underneath your wetsuit, and that'll help you to store. You can store your paddles in there when you're running. You can store gels in there. You can store your flask in there, all kinds of stuff. If one of your teammates is, say, a faster runner, that doesn't mean that you might be running faster. It might just mean that you're the Sherpa and you carry everything for your team. When John and I race together, not because I'm faster, just because I've become the default Sherpa, mostly because he resists eating. I carry all of our food with us. And so basically I just take food out of my pouch and I just make him eat it. And then as the race goes on, you go from being very large and restricted to back to your normal size. So, but
as far as the rentals on the wetsuits, because we get a lot of questions coming in about that. We have, Lars, how many? 30 suits, about 30 suits, right?
Yeah, currently in stock, we have 30. Helen from over at ARC, they're running it through their website. So she said she's going to get that fired up here pretty quick for all of our races. Definitely, if you want a rental suit, definitely do that sooner than later. Those sold out very quickly for our Texas race. The one that I held up This is a rental suit. They're brand spanking new. So they've only been used one time at Austin. It's a 24-hour rental. So you do have to give it back at the finish line. You get it at packet pickup. This is a short sleeve. The sleeve is already pre-cut, but they come with a neoprene sleeve that will cover the rest of your arm as well. It fits right underneath the wetsuit. So a wetsuit rental comes with that neoprene sleeve as well.
So just to elaborate a little more on that, so we're working out a system with them. It'll likely be through their website, like Lars said. The goal would be to have rentals where you could rent for each individual race, whatever one you need, or multiple ones if you're coming to more than one race. We'll outline that once we have that done with them. We'll let everyone know at once, so it's fair, first come, first serve. You'll get the suit at packet pickup. Like you said, if you paid to have your packet mailed to you, we'll still do that. The suit will not be mailed to you. You'll still have to get it at packet pickup. So that kind of defeats the purpose, I guess. But we'll have a separate area for those wetsuits, kind of maybe at the end of the line of tables or whatever. So if you get your suit mailed, or if you get your packet mailed to you and you just come for the suit, you don't have to necessarily wait in that line. You can just go to the suit table. So still an advantage there. And then at the end of the race, whether it's right when you cross or, after you take a few minutes to recover or whatever, just return the suit. We'll have a bin somewhere for those suits, return them, let whoever's checking them in know that you returned yours and you're not responsible. And after that, I do know that last year we allowed athletes to buy the suit minus the rental they had already paid. Lars, are we allowing that again this year?
Yeah, I think one or two did that last year. But yeah, I think that's just whatever ARC sets up. So we'll facilitate whatever ARC sets up.
And then someone asked about training. Our very own champion up there, John Stevens, helped collaborate a little bit on writing out plans we came up with for Odyssey. And so if you want to purchase one of those, they're still only $25. If you purchase them through the store, it's $75 normal price. But if you guys register for the race and you want to go in there to your registration, sign in to run, sign up, you can add them as an add-on still for $25. If you do that outside of your registration that you've already done, please just email us and let us know, because I usually check those every week or so. And if you need them sooner than that, you got to let me know, because I have to download the lists every week or every time I do it. It's a big ordeal, unfortunately. So if you need it sooner than, let's say, every Monday that I check it, just let me know if you go in and do that and I'll get it for you. And that's through Training Peaks. And we put that plan in and you guys can.
12 weeks, Aaron?
It's a 12-week plan, regular or advanced. And you can choose either one. They're the same price. I think it's just $25 if you do it through your registration. And it initiates whenever you want in Training Peaks. It's shared with you. And then you can use it as much as you want. I believe it just stays on there even after you initiate it, but I'm not 100% on that.
I read something about wet socks. I'm assuming the question was about, like, do you wear like a neoprene bootie underneath? I think typically most people would just wear standard socks that you would wear like for a trail run. Something again that if it drains well, if you're fine with running in a pair of socks in the rain, then I think it's probably suitable.
Are there other questions on here? Let's see.
Oh, hey, Brent, we did have a question before you got on about the ferries. Can you speak with a little bit more conviction than the three of us nuts?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the ferries, they basically let out reservations. Well, I guess starting with the basics, the ferry leaves from Anacortes, Washington, and that's about an hour and a half or 2 hours from Seattle. So if you're traveling, if you're bringing a car, doing a rental car, something along those lines, you have to get from Seattle up there, figure to be safe, like 3 hours between when you leave Seattle and when your ferry departs, because you need to get there early, even if you have reservations. The way the reservation system works for the ferries is that they do it 3 months in advance. They do 30% of the boat. 3 months in advance, or 3 weeks in advance, they do another 30% of the boat. 3 days in advance, they do another 30% of the boat, and then they leave 10% left for like drive up people. So it behooves you to get a reservation early. It's very easy to get reservations, just you kind of got to remember that timeline. And so if you try to jump on, like they're not even available quite yet. So once they open up for reservations, like try to get on that first day, jump on and get your reservation. If that doesn't work, kind of like keep checking back between that 3 month and 3 week period, and then jump on like first thing that morning at the 3 week mark. I think it's at 7 a.m. 3 weeks in advance they become available. And then I believe that their ferry schedule changes that weekend. So Friday and Saturday, you're coming out on the summer schedule, but the fall schedule starts on Sunday. And so the schedule will be a little different Sunday, but once the reservations open up, you'll be reserving for that specific schedule.
Someone asked about the start procedure. So unlike last year, I don't know if it's every state. I know Michigan's one of the most locked down ones where I live, or was at least. And now, as long as you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. I haven't looked into quite what that means with 1, 2, 300 people at a start line, although we start at different times for different distances. So the most on the start line that I would think we're going to have is between 1 and 150 at a pretty loaded race, like Casco Bay. Orcas might be 100, 125. It's always going to be what you're comfortable with, guys. So if it's a mass start and there's no restriction at all, and you want to start in the back away from everyone and wear a mask until you cross the line, it's whatever you want to do. But we will go with whatever the local guidelines say we have to do. I know by then, hopefully there's no guidelines on it, but again, whatever you're comfortable with given your circumstance.
To add a little more to that, currently for Washington State, you can have waves of people up to 30 racers per wave every minute is what the current guidelines are. And
we do have that's with our Austin race in November last year. We have literature that we rolled out already where we set people off in a time trial start situation. It went very well. People fixed into their kind of slot in the race very quickly. And people were really good about self-seeding themselves, I think, as well. So if we do go into that type of a start, we definitely have some experience and we can roll that out seamlessly. So it's something that we're just gonna, it could be very different 3 months from now than it is right now.
And we'll probably let everyone know on that. I would say even the week of the event. It's not something that's that big a deal letting you know the week of. It doesn't influence anything really besides the start, maybe the finish line and post-race party a little bit. But we'll let you know because we want to give it as much time as possible. So just look for something official the week of, I would say.
Did I see a question about post-race food? Oh, no, I didn't, but we're going to tell you about it anyways because it's awesome. We have a guy named Pizza Jim who is the squirreliest guy out there, who makes the best pizza in the world. And him and his crew, as long as he's not booked up that day, which, he gets booked months and months, 6 months plus in advance, but and Brent has been known to forget to make a reservation every once in a while, but we think that we have him on schedule to show up.
We think so. He's a little hard to pin down.
You'll know what we mean. You'll know what we mean when you see him, but he makes one mean pizza and he makes them until you cannot eat anymore.
Brent, and I don't think you answered this yet, but at least on this call, what's the group discount at Rosario? They call in to get something, right? I remember you saying there was something, I thought.
Yeah, you just when you call in, just mention that you're with the SwimRun.
Do you know what it is, like what that discount actually is, or no?
I don't right offhand.
Any other questions, guys? What about the brain trust here? Do we have anything else we want to add?
It's giving us a lot of credit.
How about the differences in air temp from the bay to the top of the mountain?
That's a really good question, and it varies. It can vary a lot, and just what the weather happens to be that day. We've had races out there where like temps on top of Constitution could be like in the 40s with some wind. And then we've had other days where it's in the 60s and lovely. It's more dependent on the wind than the elevation. If it's really howling, like the summit of Constitution gets a lot colder. On a typical day, if it's not too windy, you're maybe 5 or 10 degrees difference. But since you're kind of hitting the top of Constitution, in the heat of the day, so to speak, it usually won't feel much different than at sea level.
Can you guys talk about the cutoffs? I was just going through the page for the race and I noticed that was something we hadn't discussed. I personally can't remember if those are hard cutoffs that you guys really push, or if they're just, you start looking at it around that time, engaging those people that are at the cutoff and what their current status is physically.
It's a softer cutoff, particularly than compared with like Casco Bay, where we have Coast Guard enforcing the cutoffs. So it's more of a check in, see how people are doing, and make sure everybody understands how much further you have to go at that point.
Restrooms, where are there restrooms on the course anywhere?
So as far as official restrooms go, you will pass some, let's see, after the first Cascade Lake swim, you go by a restroom. At Mountain Lake Landing, there's a restroom where that aid station is. The aid station at the top of Constitution, there's a restroom there. That on the long course, the rest of the trip from Constitution down through Twin Lakes up over Pickett, there's no restroom. So you'll come back to Mountain Landing where there's another restroom. And then just before your last swim in Cascade Lake, there's another restroom.
So people should be covered.
You're covered.
For the most part.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're right at about an hour, just a tad bit over. Any last questions for anyone here? Awesome.
Thanks for joining in, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. Our next one is actually Thursday. We're making up missing the Casco Bay one. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. So if you're interested in Casco Bay or you're signed up for it, this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, same type of Zoom deal. And then we'll post to YouTube afterwards for anyone that wants to listen to it. So thanks for joining us, guys. Have a great night and be safe out there training, and we'll see you soon.